and I'm just gonna do one of those the clap things because I have to.
So you're gonna count down, and you want Mike to clap at the same time that you clap.
No, I can just clap. It'll be fine.
Okay. And then you're gonna try to capture some candid convo and make it as unflattering as possible.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So then. Oh, gotta let the dog shake. Episode 199 of View from 202. It's another, I guess, off-season episode coming to you in early February. We've got a couple bits of more news, but also just kind of talking about more off-season Red Bulls vibes here before the 2022 season. As always, we've got the four of us in the studio. We got Cork.
Hello, folks.
We've got Sam.
Hey, y'all.
Got Peaches.
Hello.
I'm Brit, and of course we have a guest today. Remember when we used to have guests on the show, like literally 3 years ago? Exciting times, folks.
We're bringing back the full guest.
We're bringing back the full guest. New York City, we're gonna win again. We're just gonna get this big W. Give us the ball. We will score with the guest. We've got Mike from not one, but two podcasts, the Dismal Tide podcast and the Purely Aesthetic Soccer Show. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm calling from probably, 2 miles further north in Brooklyn, but I'm looking out a southern facing window. So it's almost like I'm in the room.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. As long as we still, stay on this side of the river, we've successfully bullied Cork across the river once again. So that's paramount.
Maybe we'll take 202 on the road and do a Manhattan show one day.
We'll see. The only reason we allowed the guest to happen was we needed low enough ping, so there's a low latency.
That's true. Yeah, we're using
I
such
checked
analog
beforehand.
equipment.
I'm at 10, I think, which is,
10
it's
milliseconds. Yeah.
Ooh, very fancy. Wow. All right. So I think we've got a couple of new updates in Red Bull's world. In typical fashion, none of them have actually been confirmed on NewYorkRedBulls.com, but that's just the way soccer transfers go. But the things I think we got to talk about first are some rumors, some signings, some impending signings. The first one, I think, most straightforward that we've talked about before is our good friend Tom Edwards. Tom Edwards, constantly rumored to come back to the Red Bulls, to Hanover, constantly faving everyone's posts on Instagram, on Twitter, on everything, posting memes of the Red Bull. It seems like it's imminent now.
So reckless.
So reckless, yeah. Imminent now that he's going to be coming back, probably on loan. In fact, I would hope, this is one time that I hope that in the time we edit this, it actually is announced, because really it's just feeling like it's dragging on forever. But I don't know. How do you fellas feel about the potential return of Tom Edwards again on loan versus being bought? Does this kind of surprise us that it might be on loan instead again? Or I don't know.
I almost worry for his sake and like his own career, the constant loan limbo thing. I mean, he's still only, I think he's going to be 23 this year, maybe 24, but getting to a point where he does need to sort of commit to where his career is going to be. It's increasingly in a state now in MLS where guys from Europe can convincingly, spend their whole careers here and not feel like they're in a backwater, and maybe even have a chance to get on their national team or back into a big European league again at some point. So I don't know. It feels like maybe Edwards is trepidatious about going all in on that if he's only agreeing to a loan again, when I'm sure the Red Bulls would like to have him permanently if that could be arranged. And it doesn't sound like Stoke is, totally attached to him. So
that's interesting. I didn't think about the fact that it might be him who's driving the loan versus permanent distinction rather than Stoke, but that would make sense.
I like to
I don't
believe
know how long his contract is, but
I like to believe that he gained an odd fascination for American culture and really embraced the Ameriburger.
I mean, that seems to be a common.
I feel like
attitude
English people,
among
especially
English athletes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they just come to America and just think he thought John Tolkien was just the craziest thing he'd ever seen.
Yeah, it's kind of unnerving.
But he has a mullet, bro.
Or even like the French
I'm looking at the
boys.
championship table, and Stoke are currently only 3 points off the playoff. So,
He
but
can't really get into their squad right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the last episode there's more competition for places now. So also the championship is a meat grinder, and there's absolutely no guarantee of getting into that playoff or the Premier League. So if that road's blocked for them, I mean, this seems like a perfectly suitable home here. And it's not like at 23, it's also young enough that you could have some good years here and then go back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's almost my thing where it's like you mentioned, I mean, the championship being a meat grinder, both in the competitive sense and that, you become kind of just an anonymous guy there, especially within the bigger pond of England than it is if you come here and be sort of a big deal for one of the big clubs in the country here in MLS. So
And the championship has 4 more teams, 7 or 8 more matches at 2.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it's
I
hard
think
to
they play
get
46.
yeah, it's a grind. Yeah.
So if they're not making, if it's hard to make the squad with that many more matches too, it sounds pretty congested.
I'm just worried with how long it's taken so far. I feel like we've had these rumors for weeks at this point, and it seemed like that was the clearest thing that was going to happen at the beginning of kind of the transfer window. But here we are. I feel like I have more confidence in some of the other rumors than I do with this one at this point.
Yeah. Although, I mean, at least he's, I guess he's injured right now at the moment, but he's like at their training facility, like training and like, showing up every day. So
Like at the gym.
Yeah, at the gym. So like hopefully he's gonna be somewhat ready when he comes over here, if at all, is my hope. But
I'm sure Klimala sent him, like Instagram reels of workouts that he's been doing over the break,
Yeah, I like to imagine that Klimala personally DMs every single one of his posts to everyone else on the team, in addition to posting it. Yeah. Or not even. Somebody just responds like, do you want me to say something? He's like, no, I just want you to watch. Yeah. I want to share. But I guess, Mike, I'm curious for your take on Tom Edwards, because I feel like Tom Edwards is a good example of a player that I think over the last year, the 4 of us on this podcast have taken for granted that we sort of all agree that we rate him for a bunch of different reasons. So I think it's healthy to maybe ask around and get the sense. I mean, did you get a feel for Tom Edwards on the Red Bulls last year?
No, I thought he did well. He seemed versatile in that he can play as a fullback or on the outside of a back 3. I also love the investigation into any social media likes. The gold standard is he said goodbye to his barber. So I don't know if anyone's researched that.
That's
That's big. Yeah, that's commitment.
That's my favorite transfer telltale site. That's my bit of reporting, but we don't have that information yet.
That's true.
No, I liked him. It was a personal frustration is that he was wearing number 7 and playing center back, but that's how it goes sometimes, especially in MLS.
That's rough. Yeah.
It's a losing battle, but
You're among like-minded people.
Yeah, but I would be happy to have him back, especially as it's currently a little thin in defense.
Yeah. Have we handed out 7 again? I don't think so. I know we switched up 9 and 10 for
Klimala
Klimala.
has 9 now.
I was gonna say Royer could have finally taken 7 now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it didn't really matter at the end of the day, but it was. He should have maybe, but I don't know. I guess we're slowly marching towards more normal or number normalcy.
Klimala took 9. Morgan is going to be 10.
Do we have a 3? Is Reyes a good normal
I'm not
number?
sure.
Neil is Neelis younger? Number 3?
He has like a normal like low defender number. I
Is
think.
Reyes
Nice.
4?
That'd be okay.
I feel like Reyes is either 4 or 6.
Yeah.
One of
Duncan
the
was
two.
6.
Okay, so I think Reyes is 4. Nealis is still on like a practice squad now. Like older Nealis is still.
Dylan Nealis is like really the way he understood the assignment of being the backup right back. He's number 12.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's acceptable as well.
That's the nailed on like backup right.
That's right.
back
The Eric
number.
Alexander number.
That's true. Yeah. Although but that's like Gary Neville being like the fringe of the England squad in the 90s number. So
Was it Alexis Sanchez who said bye to his barber on like Instagram that confirmed that rumor? Or am I getting mixed up?
I'm almost positive that's what I'm making reference to. I think it was his barber in Barcelona, like posted like a good luck thing to him in England when he left Barcelona for Arsenal.
That's funny because I feel like there's a level at which you just fly your barber to you. You know, it's like
yeah, because Name Redacted was actually posting about that earlier this week that like USMNT players like have guys show up to camps and like barber the whole team and stuff.
yeah, like the big guys like fly at the same. There's like one dude who does I think the same fade for everyone.
Even the USMNT guys have
like jet set barbers.
but they're like. They're all like 17 and on like the third division, like third reserve squads.
They all have entire like sleeves on their arms and shit too. And when
they
they're like
already
18,
have their personal.
Are you saying that
barbers.
Alexi Lawless was right?
kind of.
No, I think it's. I mean, I think it's fine if you're like a full adult. I'm just more surprised that the U.S. men's toddler team or whatever like it has personal barbers already.
Yeah, that's what it is now. Yeah.
I do think that Gonzalo Varone famously struggled to find a barber or like things like that while here.
Yeah.
So hopefully it does seem like Tom Edwards has that sort of routine all set up. But speaking of transfer sagas of lore, which as maniacal Red Bulls fans we have had many, there's a new photo that I briefly tried to delve into and go like looking around on Google Maps to try to find out where it was, of Luquinhas, a midfielder in Poland at Legia Warsaw, that was taken of him, and I was like, where is this? Is this in New York? Is this in Hudson County somewhere? Is he about to be announced? Because since the last time we recorded an episode, it has been consistently rumored that a deal for this midfielder is inching closer and closer and closer to move him from the big Polish team, the big struggling Polish team at the moment.
Big broke Polish team.
Yeah, to us for about 3 million euros or dollars.
They're quoting it in euros, which is kind of unusual. You usually get like pretty much any English language that doesn't directly deal with England, you'll get dollars.
It's like $4 million.
Yeah, I don't know what the exchange is, but I assume it's around that. Yeah.
Yeah, Eric Adams is going to make us convert it to Ethereum or something. But so Cork, really, tell me about Luquinhas. Who is Luquinhas?
Full government name Lucas Linhares. He is from Brasilia, which is cool. I guess I don't know if people like. I don't know if Brasilia is anything like people from DC here, they probably suck. But yeah, I don't know. Then he came up in like some little club in Brasilia that's not really like high level, but somehow got recruited to come play in the lower divisions in Portugal, and then wound up at Benfica in their reserves for a couple of years. And then after he didn't really break through into superstardom there, he ended up going over to Legia Warsaw, where he's been for about almost 4 years now. Won a couple of Polish league titles there, but then like we touched on a minute ago, they're having some financial issues there. They're near the bottom of the table and not going to be qualifying for Europe next year, so they need to kind of move some guys off, and looks like one of them is going to be Luquinhas coming to us for a little bit of money. He'll obviously join, Patrick Lamala being an alum of the Polish league, but just, the Polish league in general, becoming kind of a like hot market for MLS teams, kind of a, which, sort of makes sense in an MLS context of, always kind of trying to find, the sleeping giant market. Like they were signing tons of Cubans for a while, then they were signing tons of Venezuelans, as we know, and looks like Poland is another one of those theaters now. So
Well, I was gonna say, just like it feels like KFL is really going after
KFL, that's a new one. I haven't heard that.
Oh, I just
Took a second.
just coined it.
Okay.
But I think it feels like he's going after these broke boy clubs
That's right.
now. Yeah. He's going after these fire. It feels like you guys might not know this, but like outside of like every sample sale in New York, there's a gaggle of Korean like middle-aged Korean women, and they're all on like Kakao Talk group chats, and I imagine like he has that version of whatever that is, just about like clubs who are just like looking to offload a bunch of transfers, just like his own gaggle of Korean ajumas on the group chat with him.
he is up on all of like the transfer apps and stuff, so I have to imagine he's a trailblazer there.
Right. He's in the forum. He's like deep in the forums as like an anonymous user just lurking.
I've once again fallen into every 6 months or so, I fall into the trap of watching random 3-minute clips of The Big Short on YouTube. So, as one does. Right. But this makes me think that Thelwell had what Byrne's job at the office, what Byrne Eibler's job at the office is to be sitting still at his office and scrolling through Excel sheets of different financial statements on Transfermarkt and Football Manager, finding the most broke clubs and likely to default on their loans, and then tipping off Kevin on who to short, and who to pick up on the cheap.
This is where all of Struber's actuarial knowledge comes into play for risk assessment. Yeah.
Legia Warsaw's financial situation is reflected in their piss poor crest.
Look, I'm as someone who likes the Napoli crest, I feel like I can't.
I could go either way. I need to know more information on whether the club is.
It's unfortunate that it's an L. There are too many like built-in jokes.
It's the one that if any FIFA heads out there, which I think there's a few, that like 10 years ago or so, when they first added like the Polish league on FIFA, it was all like generic. For some reason, they had the licenses to all these clubs, but not their logos or whatever. So they all had like super generic logos. But then I think Legia is the one that was like the actual logo, and it blended in with all the other fake ones. And now it's, they have all the real ones and it still looks fake.
Well, I think it's especially...
I've always thought it looked fake, but then watching all these Luquinhas things for the last couple of weeks, I'm like, I like the way it looks on their jersey, I guess. And like, I like the way their kits look.
On like a plain white kit, it looks like really clean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like, it's especially unfortunate that it's an L. If they could have just like picked a W for like Warsaw instead,
Just L.
It's like the L team. Like you're the L team.
People should go after Liverpool like that. Just LFC.
L team.
I didn't even think about how their opposite choice really was W. I don't know. That annoys me. That was one thing that annoyed me about when the Cubs won the World Series like 5 years ago. I had never heard of that whole W thing that they were doing.
Yeah.
But like, if you go and look it up, people talked about it for decades. But I was like, I swear to God, I've never heard of this thing. And they all just came out of the woodwork with that stupid W flag.
No, you just weren't about that life back then, Brit.
And still am not. So fair enough. I could go either way. But and so he's like, I've heard the phrase inverted winger said about him. Or am I getting confused with Morgan?
So just every attacker we're linked to, I think, Brit,
right?
Which is a type, right?
This is sort of but from what I understand of his player profile, he's more of like a Morgan wide cutting in sort of player rather than someone who's going to park in the middle of the pitch and dribble and sit on the ball, right?
Yeah, I mean he's played mostly as like a left-sided. He's right-footed or predominantly right-footed, and has played mostly on the left side, further up the field for Legia, and he's scored a few goals, and part of his production is cutting in towards goal. But I think he's versatile. I have to imagine if they've scouted and picked him out that his pressing and off ball metrics are pretty fantastic. And I think, if we're signing him and Morgan, I think it speaks to the idea that we're going to go ahead and try and play the same formation that we ended last year with, especially for the fact that we let Fabio go and we haven't signed a, sort of line leading center forward to replace him. And we're, it appears we're going to ride with Kalamala being, kind of alone up top. I think that speaks to that we're going to use, like I said, the formation at the end of last year where it was kind of the Christmas tree where we had two attacking midfielders underneath Kalamala. The problem being a lot of the time that it was like Cáceres and Omir Fernandez who, would have their flashes and have their moments, but as far as being consistent fits for those roles, it was always kind of makeshift. And I think this offseason, I think Morgan and Luquinhas both fit much closer profiles to those sort of roles. And the fact that we, are going to be returning Long and haven't really shored up, new midfielders to replace Davis, so on and so forth. I think the way the squad numbers all balance out from there speaks to going ahead with the sort of 3-6-1, 3-4-3, whatever you want to call it. But the main, offensive crux is that there's two kind of loose attackers underneath Klamala.
Well, I think one thing I forgot.
Unfortunately,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, unfortunately, there's no sort of advanced metrics on FBref for the Polish league. We've got almost no stats on him whatsoever, except that he has 1 assist this year and 3 yellow cards. But
that's good.
That's a great ratio.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see from an attacker.
Yeah. Do we have a breakdown of whether that's dirty fouls or dissent or taking off your shirt? Taking off your shirt without even scoring.
Yeah, exactly.
But
there's very little video on him too, like even of like goals and stuff.
That is weird. You would have thought, I think we may have talked about this before, but like Poland, 40 million people live in Poland or something like that? Pretty high integration, I feel like, of Polish players into the Bundesliga.
I imagine like Poland is very well represented in like the crews of dudes who make just random highlight videos with techno music in the background.
Oh yeah, a lot of Euro beat.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
I imagine a lot of those guys are Polish. So why can't they step it up in their own backyard?
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't just more visibility of that league. Because I mean, like more people live.
That's what I meant. Like when I was kind of talking earlier about it becoming sort of the new
but maybe it's
frontier for
maybe
MLS
that's the way it should be. Like the Polish are just like vibes with soccer,
Maybe. I don't know. I don't like if it just means that the Bundesliga continues to hoover up everyone and nobody else. That sounds annoying. I don't know.
Yeah, but if they're like meant to go to the Bundesliga, they'll you can just keep them in the Bundesliga then.
I guess
themselves,
I don't know. I mean, I guess like there's a wave of Polish strikers in MLS now. So maybe it has maybe the actual football front offices do have some sort of plug for figuring out what's going on.
I mean, it generally, it's only in the last like 5-10 years that a few Polish clubs here and there, they used to never qualify for Champions League, like Warsaw or like Lech Poznan or like any of the big clubs there. And in the last like decade or so, they've started to do that a little bit. And MLS will probably be priced out of it within like 5 years. But for now, they're trying to get in on it.
I guess Poland had fewer like oligarchs popping up, big clubs like Ukraine did, because I guess Ukraine's league was sort of, it's not that Ukraine is that much healthier in footballing terms. I think they just had 3 or 4 guys who were throwing money at Donetsk or whatever, but I don't know. I think one thing I forgot to ask about Morgan last episode was that last year it felt noticeable to me that we were just never going to the end line and cutting balls across. And it was hard. It seemed like it was maybe partially because of our personnel, but it also seemed to be very much a direction that they were following from the management. Do you think that having Morgan and then Luquinhas on the squad, who are maybe more direct sort of vertical players, might mean more of that? Or do you think we're going to be just using them to kind of attack around the corners of the box still?
I think it might be the latter. I think it might be them trying to add better weapons to the same formula they were trying to push last year, which I think, is a, sensible approach. I mean, you could see last year a lot of moments where just, one, sharper run or one better touch, so on and so forth, would have led to something. So I don't think there's anything wrong with building on that. But yeah, there was always the option of, I guess still is the option of having guys cut to the end and cross more, which we could be seeing. But I think from what I know of Morgan and what I've seen of Luquinhas, that we're going to be having guys, kind of cutting towards goal more from those positions. And, maybe that means Klimala kind of, dropping deeper and distributing a little bit more. We'll see. But my sense of things right now is that, we're going to be kind of running the same formation kind of Christmas tree thing at the end of last year, but just with better personnel.
Yeah, well, I figure that, just based on kind of the way that we move the ball around the top of the box, frustratingly at times, like kind of just switching it back and forth, having kind of these inverted winger type players would allow more kind of bodies to be there for interplay when you are making those quick switches, right? Then you'll have like people who are making undercuts instead of just our fullbacks making overcuts, and then people are cutting in for runs, making room in the box for bodies or out wide. Like you're creating options by having more central presence, right?
Yeah, I feel like last year there were a lot of times it felt like you'd get one guy like, CCJ, who's, I still think it's kind of not, it's a weird position for him to be in, to be running down the wing like that. And then, or sometimes Tolkien too. And then you'd get there and he would just wait for somebody to arrive. And then a lot of times the person who arrived was Sean Davis, who love him, but he just kind of would eventually get the ball circulated. And it was just not urgent or fresh or very incisive. So these two guys might help with that. And also might make it so opposing back lines are a little bit more nervous with the ball at their feet. Because I think the other thing is when, especially since we played so many teams like 3 times in quick succession, I think opposing teams quickly learned that when Davis or Tolkien or I don't know, even like CCJ, like in certain parts on the field had the ball, that they didn't really have to worry about there being a quick move. I think Duncan, maybe, yes. But even then, Duncan could have actually been told or asked to be more aggressive than he was. So maybe we'll catch guys by surprise this season if we do end up being a little bit more direct. Hopefully. We'll see.
To bring it back to the most important thing we're talking about, numerology wise, Lewis Morgan is number 10 too. So,
that is nice.
Yeah. Big news there.
Yeah. That was
everything in its right place here.
So true. I did look up as well that Sean Nealis is 15, which I think is a really in between number that I forgot about.
Solid. 15's versatile. Like
you can be anywhere at 15.
Yeah.
With the exception of perhaps goalkeeper, it might look a little weird, but
That is
otherwise,
true,
I think you can be basically anywhere.
I guess it makes sense considering where he started on the roster last year is not necessarily being like, the starting caliber league best type center back. But now, I guess it could be worse.
You know what it was? Klimala 10, not it. Klimala 9, K9, we're in here.
Yeah, it's gonna
K9.
Yeah, let's go.
He's
K9.
going. He's gonna have. He had some kind of. His Instagram post today. He had some hat with a weird logo I didn't recognize.
You know what it is? He's just number 9 energy. He's not number 10 energy. Like I think that's what it is.
I liked him as number 10, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, like he's not a number 10 though. Yeah.
I do like that. When he joined, he was like, "Oh, 9's not available. Okay, I'll take 10." Instead of being like, "I'll take 91 or 92 or like something weird."
Yeah.
Or 90. Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh. But got it. Hopefully, I mean, the one silver lining to the fact that we're getting so old and that 90s birth dates are being less of a thing among players is that you'll see fewer players with their birth date on the back
those
of their
days are
shirt.
over. Yeah.
It'll be a normal number, but now it's gonna be like, oh, he's born in 04, but he's a striker.
Nobody's gonna put 04 on their back though.
But it'll be 4. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think people will do that. Because it
It'll
doesn't
be
make,
novel, you know? Like
won't-
if you're
it-
born in 2009.
it won't read as a year if it's just 4, unless you're able to put 04 for some reason.
Yeah, it's really true to you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for like the
Okay.
like
All right.
you're doing it for the love of the game.
All right.
You don't, yeah, but number below 7, you don't see too many strikers ever. Samuel Eto'o famously wore 5 when he went to Everton, which is baffling. And Asamoah Gyan wore 3, I think, when playing for Ghana. But otherwise, I can't think of anyone who wore below 7. But also for Clement, going from 10 to 9 is a very unusual switch too.
Yeah.
Almost no one's ever making that change.
Because when you're already 10, you already know that you're like a top dog. Like,
Exactly. But if you're switching to 9, then you know what your assignment is.
true.
You know.
Yeah.
Van Persie went from 11 to 10, and then Wilshere. I don't know. Wilshere had once, like, before he went to 10, but Arsenal had a couple fucked
Henry went
sequences.
from 14 to 12.
I will say part of United unraveling in the last 10 years has been when they bought Martial and like Rashford came up and stuff like that. All those guys were like switching their numbers up every year, and it's just like, no, you gotta have a hierarchy. You gotta have, sort of a
Like if you're
structure
giving
in
someone the
place.
number 7, like you know that they're the winger. Like
Yeah.
they're there.
I will say Beckham picking 23 was one of the lamer things he did.
I was gonna say 23 is kind of a lame number. You know who else was 23? Fabian Johnson.
God, yeah, cursed.
Yeah, I think it's just a different sport, man. It's just a different sport.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't work. But has Barcelona already given out number 10 again?
Oh, interesting question.
Is Barcelona
Wait, what was that? It
real?
broke up a little bit. What was that?
Did Barca give a new 10?
I don't know. I imagine they're sitting on that because it didn't go to Memphis, right?
What if it's just been Serginho Dest this whole time? But that would be typical. I don't.
No.
Is Messi wearing 10 at?
He's wearing 30.
He's been
Oh, yeah, he is wearing 30.
No, nobody told. Why didn't anybody fucking tell me that he's been absolutely sucking at PSG? That blew me away when there was just some random post where people were. It was just like Messi only has 1 goal in like 12 appearances. I was like, what?
Why are more people not talking
what
about
the
that?
fuck?
Yeah.
It feels like when
Oh, he got one on over the weekend. He's up to 2 now. He scored against Lille.
he scored on Lille.
Ansu
He did.
Fati wears number 10 at Barcelona.
Wow.
Oh.
He scored
They're
on
putting
Lille.
faith in the youth.
He didn't even score on one of the Southern farmer teams. That's crazy. Wow, he actually scored on a real industrial city. But I feel like nobody talking about Messi sucking now feels spiritually very similar to how just like one day all of the news networks were like, oh yeah, we've never heard of Donald Trump. He's gone. just didn't talk about him anymore. It doesn't work that way. You can't just choose your times like that. But yeah, I glad to see that Messi has followed Gonzalo Verón and being number 30 now. Good for him. I think similar to sort of this or the number combo and potentially filling out the back line of our number combo comes the center backs. We are linked to another center back, interestingly enough. A 27-year-old Republic of Ireland international Derek
Lennon.
At least, yeah. For a second, when I was walking over here, I was like, "Is it Graham Lennon?" I was like, "No." Okay, thank God, Rebels not canceled. Dara Linehan. I'm gonna just add that little flourish on the second. Dara. Yeah. Who is a center back for Blackburn Rovers? Which I will say, I'm happy that this is the way that I found out that Blackburn is on the up again. Because last time I checked, them and Bolton were struggling and, maybe not going to exist anymore.
Oh, I thought you maybe meant Blackburn, the city. Like there was something hot going on there.
Oh.
But you just mean the team itself.
Yeah, just the team.
I mean, there
itself.
definitely is something hot going on in Blackburn somewhere.
Something is going on.
Yeah. I read a theory, somebody like tweeted or something that they think that the reason that Venky's bought Blackburn, that their rationale was that they just looked up a list of teams who had won the Premier League and went down and kept on going until they found a team they could actually afford. And they were like, oh, Blackburn, great. And they
Leicester, Blackburn.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's the real deal, and he's 27 years old, out of contract at the end of the season, seemingly in his prime, which is kind of crazy because, you know, the Red Bulls are pretty stacked at center back, with the exception or the caveat of new news, very frustrating news, that Andres Reyes has come down with a pretty severe foot fracture that's going to put him out for 4 to 6 months. And apparently, I actually don't know whether the 4 to 6 months time includes this in the estimate, but it's the kind of thing where you can't put any weight on your foot while it's healing. So it's very hard to train while you're sitting out. So he's going to have to build up fitness afterwards too, which might make it a long process until it feels like Andres Reyes is fully fit again and as dominant as he was last season. But yeah, is there a sense, or is there any new movement on this rumor? Is there a sense that it actually will go through and that we're going to have a new center back here?
Well, I think you have to also mention, or it has to be in tandem with the news that trickled through a little bit last week, that we supposedly had offers for Aaron Long all through the offseason, mainly MLS trade offers, that we turned down under the premise that he is going to be a key veteran in a team that's going to be gunning for trophies this year, which, you know, it's hard to tell how that got out, when it got out, and, you know, who wants it to be out. You know, all that stuff is kind of hard to tell, but regardless, it sounds like the option was there for us to get a little bit of room and maybe some money and personnel in exchange for Long that we chose not to use. So it's hard to say. I think, like I said, I think the Lenihan deal might have been something that we had up our sleeve in case we decided to move something on Long. But in the meantime, I think there might still be the possibility that we need to have a post Aaron Long plan in place, and that maybe Lenihan is a guy, if he's somebody who's only going to be coming over in the summer anyway, maybe that increases the possibility that that's more of the track that he's going to be on.
He's the Caden Clark replacement.
Yeah.
We're gonna convert him into a 10. We're gonna do it a reverse Aaron Long with Lenihan.
That's right. So I guess I couldn't remember if it was that he would come over in the summer or if we were going to spend money to release him early. Because I guess with Luquinhas, we are spending money to release him just a couple months early, right? So for this Linehan guy, we would still have to wait anyway. So, all right, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, with Aaron Long, we've talked about this before, but I'm fine with keeping him for this year, and even if that means that, you know, we won't be able to sell him or whatever. Really, the point is to play and win soccer games, and I think Aaron Long helps us do that. And I feel like our recent activity has painted a picture that money is really not an issue right now. Like, we're kind of just throwing random money at things and signing who we want anyway. Like, I guess maybe this also bridges us into a conversation about the way people talk about the team. Because sometimes I get confused when the sort of old line about like Red Bull being cheap or like no DPs comes up. Because if I have to describe frustrations with the ownership or like the sporting section of the club recently, it's not that we don't spend money. It's that we're just sort of seem to be very finicky and very picky and specific and get in our way.
But also not.
How
like,
so? Oh, you mean with like the 2019 stuff?
Yeah, but like also like Matthias Jurgensen and like, you know,
I'll add a qualifier.
like,
it's like when somebody is home.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But like there's still like some baffling like
that's true.
purchase decisions, you know, like
you've got your Moketo was an inspired decision as well.
That's an exception.
Yeah,
it's not the rule.
And you've got I guess Andreas Ivan, we know we actually turned him down and then brought him back. So I guess that kind of fits. But I don't know. I think because I mean, I guess we kind of talked about this pattern
But
with
like
Royer
Amaya too, a little bit. Like,
Well, I'm still.
I know. I'm saying like the cat's not out of the bag with Amaya, but like in my eyes, it's not looking that hopeful in that trade. But like like we have the assets to spend. Is
I think
kind
that
of the
goes.
point.
Yeah, I think that goes to the point, and I think this seems to be true for other teams as well. That it seems like more loose or free flowing than it has been and before. That if you want to get a guy, you mostly can nowadays, unless you totally fuck it up like Miami.
There was some, there was it was a pretty good piece that I think it was Paul Tenorio with The Athletic, where it basically, there is kind of a weird accumulation of GAM that all of a sudden happened. I don't think the league planned it or anything, but just all of a sudden there's just tons of it flowing around, because I think I try not to get too lost in this kind of stuff, but I think the way GAM works is that once it's traded, it becomes active for an extra amount of time. It gathers another cycle,
and then you got three new pools,
and you get like 3 transfer windows,
right?
And then these pools build up.
Yeah, that it's cycled so much over the years that now the market is completely flush with it.
This is Brandon's America.
He did it, man.
Right. On this subject, with the sort of very complicated MLS specific things, like what with Caden Clark coming back, should he come back, like what has to be given up in order to make that happen?
We're giving up $600,000 in GAM to get the top allocation order spot in order to get him without competing for someone else. It seems, I think.
Basically, but yeah, I mean, that's sort of the thing that we have to get to the top of. So, Caden Clark is officially an ex-MLS player right now. Thus, he needs to be acquired through the allocation order, which is designed to reward crappy teams or just teams that haven't gotten a good player in a while. Which at the moment that team is Cincinnati. So this is a lot of this legwork has been pieced together by one of my colleagues at Once a Metro, Eric Friedlander, but that we have to get to the top of that allocation order where Cincinnati is right now, and like we're kind of touching.
And there's a physical list of all the players in this.
Yeah, no, it's like
it's
you get added to an allocation list once you're an ex-MLS player of a certain magnitude.
Wait, I thought it was.
It's like transfer fee out.
It's like national team players.
Several
they
different.
they also qualify.
So this is the same thing.
Fucking arbitrary. Yeah.
Because back in my day, but this is a thing that we traded to sign Sasha Kljestan for back in 2015.
Yeah.
Which was comparatively more straightforward. And I think also helped by the fact that everyone was, seeing the mist about Mike Petke at the time, and it kind of flew under the radar. But, Sasha was like at Anderlecht, kind of just like a veteran, national team caps, came back. But Caden Clark is like, I don't know, weird for all these reasons we laid out. So
if we wanted to get Tyler Adams back on loan, it would be the same thing too, though.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
But this doesn't feel like it's like not even the point of like the intent of having this thing.
I think especially like cases. Oh, maybe it's different for homegrowns. I'm not sure, but like especially for cases where it's like the kids from your academy and stuff like that, it feels like really like weird to like make
that
them
is
go through
true.
that.
Where it's like that. It feels like that should be part of homegrowns now, where it's just like that player, you have first dibs on that player.
It might be that because he's not a
MLS.
homegrown player. We have to remember.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Like Caden Clark isn't homegrown.
Oh my God! Didn't we pay Minnesota a little bit of fuck you money to make him our homegrown?
That's true. Yeah. So this.
We just to sign him to RB2, I think, for the rights, right?
I thought that we basically bought the ability to call him a homegrown.
Okay, so people who care about
we bought the ability to like change his fingerprints and like do full Gattaca, like invent his biography and shit. Say that he grew up in Passaic or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so the people who care about MLS cap numbers and spreadsheets and stuff, losers. People who care about squad numbers, like Chads, winners.
Clearly,
That's exactly right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it explains a lot that apparently there's just this accidental buildup and all of this allocation money that I mean, like we said at last episode, we're just throwing it at draft picks, which is something we usually do not do. This is something that most teams usually don't do. So now, you know,
This is just what happens when you artificially lower the interest rate for years and years
If
and
you
let
had-
the housing market get out of control, Brit.
yeah, if you had told me a couple months ago that we would have to pay a bunch of allocation money to re-sign Caden Clark, I would be sort of pissed. But I guess nothing really matters. I guess it's all just
It's like actually fake money
expiring.
now.
Yeah, especially so. But
We're in the
especially considering that Caden Clark is, we've joked before about him being sort of like a fake player who we barely even saw in person because he
Right.
only played over COVID. But like, especially after his appendix, it's like, is he even gonna play? Is this even easier for Leipzig? Doesn't Leipzig have some sort of youth team or reserve team that they can put
Or,
him on?
yeah.
multiple reserve teams that they
Yeah,
Yeah.
send him to some Danish team or something.
Fucking send him to Red Bull Racing for all I care. I don't really,
Brit recently saw the Formula One documentary.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I've been watching the Formula One show. Which, warning, most of my observations so far have been about different European accents, not actually racing. So
Gunther Steiner is. Whew.
I'm gonna pick my time and moment. But I don't. I'm not setting my hopes high. I'm not banking on Caden Clark performing this year, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I would be pleasantly surprised.
See, I feel like so the loan's only till this summer, right?
It
and
is?
like,
We don't know any of the details.
well, isn't
yet.
that what it's been saying? It's like it's to the summer, and there's like maybe an option to extend
I
it
mean,
to the rest of the year.
I mean,
or
it's
something.
all conjecture for
Yeah,
right
sure.
now.
I mean,
so-
like it's all fake because it's Leipzig anyway. But like you know, like if that's the details of the plot, then it's like really like, oh, like we're just like keeping them warm for a little bit, maybe.
I don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he never felt he's like we've talked about before. He spiritually never felt like our player. He's never like, I don't know.
It's not like Tyler Adams.
Right.
It's not like Sean Davis.
Yeah.
It's
He
not like Connor Lade for that matter.
honestly, like his car choice very poor. Like a Porsche Cayenne, like it's a very soccer mom car, you know. Like,
Yeah, that's
He also, it's for being. He's 18 years old, so relying on any 18-year-old to perform consistently is asking a lot. And expectations were set extraordinarily high because of him scoring goals instantly when he started. So now if he doesn't, it will be a bunch of what happened to Caden Clark.
Okay, to his credit though, and we've talked about this, those goals were sick.
They were.
Yeah.
they were sick, but it's also just it's I don't see from a club perspective, I don't see how it wouldn't be a better use of our time and the prospective players' time to bring in a guy who we're committed to try and maybe that guy doesn't exist right now, and that's why we're trying to bring back Clark. But I just feel like that's something where why spend 6 months with another lame duck when you can have a guy getting prepped for another 3 or 4 years here, starting to get.
I mean, hey, look, if
brought
we're
on.
getting two permanent kind of like attacking midfielders ish that are kind of like outside inside players, and maybe Clark is just kind of depth for this part of the season, especially if the plans are for that to be a more permanent solution for us there,
In
right?
the summer,
It just
maybe.
doesn't seem to be best for any of the parties involved, because if he gets isolated minutes here or there, I mean, unless he just needs to get back to fitness, like I don't think that's going to help his development a ton to be like a second or third option for us as just for half of a season. I don't think it's going to be best for us either. And then like also for like the US fans who are like jogging every single one of his minutes in their notebooks, like is that gonna improve his national team prospects? Not really. I think it's just been a real confluence of having the cart in front of the horse for this whole guy's tenure. And I kind of am just looking. I'm glad that we've got other things going on. And we're not, seriously
but
relying
like
on it.
everyone who's interested in Caden Clark, like losers.
You mean like non-Red Bull fans,
Right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Like non New York Red Bulls fans,
Right.
Who are interested in Caden Clark. like they would rather see him play junk minutes at Genk than at New York Red Bulls anyway or something, right? So it's like,
But even if he does stay at the Red Bulls, he'll still be just a calling card for everybody to hang over Berhalter's head. Just say you should be calling in Caden Clark, you should be calling in so on and so forth. He'll be in the mix still.
Yeah. When is the next national team game? I'm really hoping for that to wrap up soon.
End of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
like the national team as an entity.
Well,
Tobit also.
well, yeah, sort of, I guess.
We've decided we're done with that.
Yeah.
It wasn't working out.
I know.
It was particularly bad.
It was not working.
window.
It definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
Mexico on March 24th, Panama on the 27th, and then Costa Rica on the 30th. So yeah, 3 games at the end of March.
All right. I hopefully they win that first one and we can just get everyone to shut up, because I'm just tired of everyone the incessant takes when everything is basically pretty normal.
There just has to be a take.
There just has to be.
No,
a
but
take.
even if they win, there's a take. That's not like good enough. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. There was a point where I was indulging more in like slight Schadenfreude of like, but now I'm like, no, I just want them to win and get it over with and just qualify. Because God forbid if they don't qualify again this year, I don't know if I can last another 4 years of hearing people talk about it. But
I think that's the end of society. I think that's really what gets it.
Yeah,
the U.S. does not qualify for another World Cup.
We need to prevent America from becoming more tempted to become a soccer country. Because I think that's what's happened over the last 4 years is that everybody decided
they're going to turn all of K-Hive into Pro Rel.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, I think, it'll also get better when the MLS season kicks in as well, because they'd also feel like we're stuck in a rut here where some people are just really desperate for Red Bulls takes. And the boring, hard truth is that you gotta kind of wait, Sometimes there's just not a take yet, I think. And I think we're still sort of in that period now where I think it's hard to issue any huge statements about like the health or direction of the club based on, I'm thinking in particular about like people talking about DPs recently.
Which like does kind of suck that we can't have a take now, because that also just kind of feels like we're still not sure about the direction necessarily.
Well,
right?
Tying back to the budget convo that we were half-heartedly having, like I'm confused by, it seems to me in the last couple of weeks, there's been a weird resurgence of people fixating on DP slots. And I don't know, Mike, maybe this is a good time to have you on, because I don't know maybe if this is just me getting stuck in a tunnel or a bubble here, because to me it feels like DPs have gotten less and less relevant as like a talking point or as a measuring stick year over year, and that it seems like people have all of a sudden started saying, oh, XYZ team only has one DP. That's not great. But maybe that's not true. Maybe it's been consistent this whole time.
Who was it? Was it a week or so ago? Was it a troll when someone was threatening to cancel their season tickets over this, or was that a legitimate post?
Oh, it's probably a legitimate post about any variety of topics at any different time.
But no, I do wonder, like when people say that, Red Bulls need to spend money, they need to, bring in some sort of statement signing. Do they have any names in mind? Because like, do you really want Gonzalo Higuain?
Right.
Right.
It's like there's only so many Carlos Velas who are like who are at that level and willing to come here and are going to slot in perfectly. There's been a lot of other big money failures too. So I it's in the end it's not my money, so it's not like I'm protective of it. But at the same time, it's just do we want Rafa Marquez again?
Right.
Yeah, and the big name thing does kind of present itself with a little bit of like a cognitive dissonance, right? Because on one hand, you're like, if you're a big name and it's like, because he's like a legend and been around forever, then it's like, oh yeah, you're just getting some old guy who's trying to retire. But if it's like a big name who's like in his prime, why the fuck is he coming to MLS? And like, how big of a name is he really? If he's a big name and he's like a prospect, then like, yeah, again, like, why are we like, we'd be paying so much for that too. It's like,
I was going to pick that up and say there's the end of it where, yeah, you ask, do they have a specific name in mind? Do you have somebody who we want to bring in? There's that end of it. And then on the other side of it, there's people pretending that any signing another club makes is such a big deal.
Right.
Even pretending, even if there's no fucking way they've heard of this guy.
Right. I was going to say, even for the guys like, because like I think Carlos Vela is a good shout. Like actual star, Mexican national team stud for however long,
and kind of like in between in Europe. And let's go ahead and
like that's like a name that you could plausibly see someone saying. But you got guys saying this kind of thing about like Ezequiel Barco and PT Martinez, who are, you know, famous in their own right, not total diamonds in the rough. But I'm 100% sure that most of these guys had not heard of Ezequiel Barco or PT Martinez or Miguel Miron before they were signed. And they're, you know, they're just like, oh yeah, these guys, perfect. That's who Red Bull needs to be signed.
Yeah, why aren't we doing this?
Yeah,
like,
was anyone watching Joseph Martinez at Torino for 3 years, scoring 7 goals, and saying like that guy's the one?
Yeah, exactly. But
everybody likes to pretend like that there's some rhyme or reason
like,
that's
guys,
never
obviously
existed.
we should have signed Diego Valeri in hindsight.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. People I think really struggle with the fact that MLS is at that tier where there's just a billion different guys you could sign, and trying to anticipate it is
I think
very
it's
difficult.
fun. Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
which is funny because like our very own fan base often brings up Bradley Wright Phillips as this like counterexample to this too, right? For like the impact that someone's made on our club, despite like coming up as like, oh, like he's a trialist guy,
right? Yeah, it's this strain that, you know, oh, we're constantly waiting for the next transfer that also gets extrapolated into, you know, if you're not, you know, if there's not constantly a transfer happening or a transfer on the way, if we're not constantly making statements or whatever, that means everything is a disaster. And it's also the premise of just like, oh, I guess it gets into like, oh, until we've won the cup, nothing means anything.
You just need to admit that you want attention. Like that's what it is, right? Like you just want people to talk about your team, which is like cool. Like, yeah, like I want people to talk about my team, but like there's like just for any reason. Like
there's a flip side to this, which is without blowing up anyone's spot in particular. You know, I think the four of us have a favorite poster online who, you know, in many ways on paper, this guy commits some of these sins, being like, oh, I wish you signed XYZ big national team player, which could be annoying on paper, but it's always just in 100% earnest. He just wants to see his boys. It's all the big names. It's none of this like, oh, ambitions for ambition's sake sort of thing.
Like hand-wringing referendum, like, you know, if we don't make a signing, that means X, Y, Z.
Right. And when somebody replies like, it's just not realistic, we're not going to sign Fabio Cannavaro, he's like, damn, you're right, but I want to see him so bad. And it's like, fair enough.
That's, dude. You know, like you just want to see your favorite boys play on your favorite team. I can't hate that.
If you just say that, it's great. But it's like the dressing up of like,
you'll see that like over the summer with Premier League teams. There will be somebody who will make a list of 10 players for like 300 million pounds that Arsenal should sign, and just like get it done, Edu. And just like, who's this for? What team has ever brought in 10 new players, successfully integrated that many, and spent that much money at once? And it's always done with complete sincerity.
Yeah, part of me, like really likes that they sit down and they go and Photoshop all of these photos. They change the colors. They put a new kit on them, and it's like you spend like 10 hours on that. And they just, you know, they post it to like Reddit or something, and they don't get money out of it or anything. But hey, I mean, if that's what makes you happy, go for it. But it's, you know, the dark evil side of this that I don't condone, when it's always just shitting on everyone's.
I think part of the you know, collective outrage that you see a lot online is that 99% of discussion about the sport in general are banter accounts, and people are just constantly angry because if anything goes wrong in the slightest, it will become a meme, and if you say anything about your club, people will reply with that to you all day.
Yeah, it's way better to get clout. I mean, if, like you're saying, in a strictly online sense, easier to get attention and clout through
Negativity.
Yeah.
Also, I've noticed I maybe this exists in other sports and I'm just not plugged in enough. But I swear in American soccer in particular, there seems to be an epidemic of accounts who have sort of like quippy little titles, but then they'll have a profile picture that is like a little logo that looks like it would be like a logo for a website or a blog or like some sort of thing. And it makes you think that it's some sort of, I'll for example, MLS Buzz is a good example of this, just to point one out. Like it gives the sort of appearance that maybe it's like a publication or something, but then you go to it and you realize that it's like,
it's just a guy.
It's just a guy.
Yeah. But they also like sometimes like take the voice of like being a proper publication.
Right.
Like try to do like a news drop and it's like you're quote tweeting a journalist.
And every once in a while they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I heard this. Sources told me this."
Confirming what or is being reported by like Jeff Reuter or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I it seems more common in American soccer or maybe just soccer in general, because it seems like the other American sports are more obsessed with like, Stephen A. Smith or like Waj bombs or whatever, or Shams or all that stuff, which Taylor Twellman is trying his hardest to be one of those guys now. Jesus. But it's a particular quirk, I think, of American soccer that I don't know if it's going to outgrow that anytime soon.
I wonder if like people are thinking of this as a grift and just failing spectacularly at realizing it's not profitable.
Maybe.
Ooh, I don't
do any of the.
I'm thinking of a specific account, and I think you know which one I'm thinking.
I don't know where the money comes in on pretending to be a journalist online. I've been doing it for years.
Right.
Well, I mean, like some people like get there real quick and try to like monetize, make merch.
Well, yeah,
and,
I was going to say
real hard. Like,
I don't want to even mention the name, but like, does Scuffed make money on their Patreon or whatever? Like, I don't do any of these.
But Scuffed has a Patreon? I don't know anything about Scuffed.
Okay, good. Never mind then. I'm just going to assume they don't, but I don't know.
Well, there was that one guy. There was like
Charlie.
A year or two ago.
Charlie Kennan.
Charlie Kennan.
Kenner?
Yeah,
Kennan.
The US YNT like verified account was like posting like, solidarity with Charlie or whatever, and I assumed this was some 14-year-old youth player who had something bad happen to him, but it was some Stan account who lied about having cancer. Absolutely humiliating discourse to be a part of. But I'm naively telling myself, if they just qualify for the World Cup and have a normal World Cup, will they get to the round of 16 or the quarterfinals? Maybe everyone will jump out of their insanity, and maybe this will cross-pollinate into MLS as well, and everyone can just accept the fact that it's mostly a fairly normal league now. But
I think in like a strictly online sense, hopefully that kind of stuff sees and saws. But I think there definitely is sort of a stream in sports fandom where just you want to feel victimized or whatever. That's some sort of glamorous thing, especially maybe even it's specifically a New York thing with this club.
Definitely a New York thing.
You think so? Yeah.
I feel like for our club especially, it's just a lot of guys who it's just like looking. It is a New York sports vibe. Woe is me for all.
I think
all
the time about the Sports Center clip. Well, I mean, more generally, like the Sports Center montages whenever like people have like paper bags on their heads at football games or whatever. It's just like, sure, that's like a big like, kind of moment to have.
That clip, somebody posted recently where somebody went to a Giants tailgate and they're like asking everyone around like what would you give for the Giants to win a Super Bowl, and he was like, I'd give up like my firstborn child and like my wife or something, and then somebody just cut away and was like, the Giants have won 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime. This man just hates his family.
Very recent memory.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been quite bad like in the last 5 years, but like
they were bad when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Arguably the 2 most memorable and famous Super Bowls of the last 20
Most
years.
exhilarating moments. But it's like, that's a great example. Yeah. Cause just like, even in that scenario, guy still just wants to be like, it's still not enough, man. Like we still haven't reached the mountaintop or whatever.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I guess that is, I guess that makes sense in
who are
sports.
talking about
It's
how
a very
tortured they are because of
puritanical,
this season.
Yeah. Oh God, Laker fans.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I think the worst thing that can happen is if the U.S. wins the World Cup with Greg Berhalter, and then like it'll break these people's brains if that happens.
No one will have anywhere to go.
Yeah, like they've reached the like their end goal. Like their end game is to win the World Cup. Congrats. Like what do you have now? Like
Yeah. Oh, great. Now he's staying.
like all these kids that you creepily took the names of and tracked across the different countries that they've moved across doesn't mean anything anymore. You've done it. Like you don't have to keep track of these guys anymore. You got the star.
That I hope
Hoping Giovanni Reyna's mother's male.
if they do win the World Cup, I hope Berhalter just goes to the press conference and says, geez, that was weird. Like, I really, my brother just asked me if I wanted a job. And I said yes. And like, what, this is supposed to be hard or something? Like,
Originally, they were going to make me deputy commissioner of the New York Police Department, but they switched me to security detail.
or he just rips off his mask and reveals that he's actually Bob Bradley in disguise. And that's why LAFC has been bad the last couple of years. Is that Bob Bradley is just like a
commuting
autonomous drone or something in the shape of him. But yeah, I also think that maybe the last two seasons of sports being sort of weird and semi-fake because of COVID has maybe made everyone particularly weird about everything. But
yeah, I can see that. Just antsy and there was the thing that we were just talking about the other day where it was like, just anecdotally, but just that there's been just weirder behavior just out and about that people are observing more and more.
That Leicester fan the other day running onto the field and punching Nottingham Forest players in the FA Cup, which they're the current holders. They it's
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So things haven't gotten that bad that fast. That they're not having a great year, but they're the current holders. They won probably the most famous league title ever,
right?
6 years ago.
People still want to have a chip on their shoulder.
Championship players.
I could also imagine going up to a Leicester City fan and asking them what they would give up for
winning the Premier
League. my nan, fucking mum. Or a Manchester. That seems also like a Manchester City fan thing. I do not care about this nearly enough to actually pursue it and risk actually engaging with sincere Manchester City fans. But I would like it if somebody out there could go find an old time Manchester City fan who just feels sort of alienated and weird about what the club is like. I'm not going to go do it myself. There's too much occupational hazard from trying that.
I think Liam Gallagher is kind of like,
I was gonna say, just
said stuff like that
Gallagher.
sometimes. Like he gets into like a euphoria when the team's like winning 6 million trophies, but whenever that's not happening, he'll be like, well, he said like the give a shit who wins.
I mean,
Football's
City's
ruined.
like kind of a good example of this too, because it's like it's not good enough because they haven't like won the Champions League. Like,
well, and then that's another the guy who was in the press box at Wembley a few years ago. I don't know if some of us remember that famous clip, but it was like he was the whole premise of him complaining was that the team had won every trophy that year and people weren't talking about it enough.
They have a complex about it. Like Jim Beglin, who does color commentary on games, I think just like accidentally said the empty hod the other day and got really mad at him. But yeah, they don't feel like they're loved and respected enough for their accomplishments. And everyone points to very obvious reasons that, when you have unlimited resources, but like no one talks about them like the 99 United treble team or the Arsenal Invincibles or something. So they're upset constantly.
Yeah,
everybody finds an angle.
Everyone they have their Aguero moment, the 2012 moment, which is more than they deserve. All right. So.
Okay. In defense of negativity, it is funny when like teams like that lose. So
The Manchester City?
Yeah, like it is funny when Manchester City loses. Like,
I mean, it can be fun to be negative. We've been negative. Sometimes.
Oh yeah,
It's just
it's just with actual direction instead of it being the be all end all.
also, it's like punching up too, like our negativity in a way.
Similar to the Manchester City combo. I think one thing to keep an eye out for this season that could be brewing is that with New York City, NYCFC, I think those people might also be developing that sort of chip on their shoulder. We haven't acknowledged this on the show yet, but like it's palpable that no one really cares or acknowledges or remembers that they won MLS Cup, and everyone's just acting like it didn't happen. And I think it's starting to bother them. Like they try to like get in people's mentions, being like, "Hey, look at our crest," and everyone's like, "All right, okay,
good for you."
Yeah, good job, guys.
It's like Marilyn Manson going door to door trying to shock everyone,
Yeah, all day. They won it on my birthday, by the way. It was cool. All day was just concern trolling about how the Red Bulls need to make some big changes. Like no one was congratulating NYCFC on their accomplishment. All day was posts about how the Red Bulls, look what's happened, look how far behind they've fallen.
Right.
There was no one talked about what an achievement this was.
And it was like randos coming out of the woodwork being like, "Oh yeah, NYCFC, that reminds me of the New York Red Bulls." and they have nothing else to say about it. So
I had one guy who was just replying to me with gifs of them lifting the trophy over and over again, and in the classic Americans can't handle banter sort of way, which is true, because I asked him, is David Villa going to be at this parade, or does it pass within 500 feet of a school?
Well, their thing was like they tried to ratio people with Bing Bong, and it's like, come on, like.
That's what it was. That's what it started over.
Yeah.
Forgot. That's what it started over.
It's like, oh, congrats! Like, yeah, me and every person in Ohio and Silver Lake has seen the Side Talk video. Congrats, NYC.
I was actually impressed by that some of them seemed to be genuinely unaware of the New York Knicks, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
But there's just so hard.
Well, I mean, that makes sense with not being like New York City people.
There's just so little evidence of them existing in real life, like, and not on the computer, that I don't know what's gonna happen. But I think they might get impatient and lose it a little bit this year with nobody caring about them,
Especially if they like implode, if their team just like falls
and
apart.
who cares? The best and funniest thing was that literally the rest of the league, like once that penalty shootout ended, everyone was like, fuck that, the season sucked.
Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly.
Like,
literally moved on entirely.
Yeah, especially with like the Philly stuff being an asterisk for them.
Yeah.
For sure.
God, that was crazy.
Because they almost lost that too.
And also the relentless march of new teams coming in, I think also just adds to it. Which reminds me, I feel like, so Cork, you went on the Dismal Tide, what, a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
A year and a half ago?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. And one question that they asked you that I really related to was, I can't remember the exact language, but like, what's like the worst moment of like trying to force MLS like relevance or like cultural relevance or relativity or thing? And like you were stumped, and I was also stumped because I was sitting there and I was like, where do I begin? Where do we even go? And I feel like in the times since that has passed, it's just, I feel like it's been a relentless march forward in just there's a new team in Charlotte, there's a new team in Austin, there's just new.
They're paying Fabrizio to give transfer updates instead of
God.
they've moved from Leslie Jones to Fabrizio Romano as far as paying.
I forgot
Oh, yeah,
about
that was
Leslie
so
Jones.
bad.
Yeah, I forgot he's on camera.
Yeah, but as I said, I might be just irony poisoned and stuck in my own rut. So like, I don't know, to the person who asked the question, Mike, do you think the league has gotten worse in this sort of way since then, in just trying so desperately to cling on to these other goings-ons in pop culture, or is it finding its own legs a little bit better?
I think, well, the product has gotten substantially better over the last couple of years. But I still on the podcast, we have a podcast Instagram account that I post nothing to because who cares? But But I
we do
did
that too.
use that account I did use that account to follow every single MLS team. So of course, throughout the entire NFL playoffs, it's just any picture they had of any player in their jersey, like in the same city. They're posting all those relentlessly. Which I know this sort of intracity solidarity sort of things, but even then, it's just like they're any Bengals player in FC Cincinnati jersey is substantially more famous than probably the team itself. So it's things like that I've noticed recently. But otherwise, I haven't noticed it really being shoehorned into anything specifically. Although I think I saw someone wearing a Crew sweatshirt in a commercial for some NBC show, but I forgot to write down which one it was.
That's a good point, because I think that reminds me that I think there really is a difference for New York teams and non-New York teams for that. It's like Sean Davis, mentioned going to like a Nashville Predators game and stuff like that. And I feel like, I grew up in Houston where like for the years that JJ Watt was there, they were trying to throw every sort of jersey on him possible. And like, when you're not in New York, people actually do get up for that sort of thing. They're like, oh, that's neat. They do commercials, everything.
Oh yeah, let's go to the liquor store player appearance.
But here it's like you put Alex Moyle and Sean Davis on the screen at MSG. It's like, doesn't really matter. It doesn't, really care. Like, I'm waiting for Julianne Moore to pop up on the screen.
Yeah, like New York sports teams don't belong to New York and vice versa. Like, yeah.
I get the sense that some people are really bothered by this as well, that there isn't that sort of thing. But like,
except for the Knicks.
I don't know how to tell some people in Red Bull's world and MLS world that like New York is not Atlanta, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Full disrespect to Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way. It's not Columbus. It's not Houston. It's just not. The new player signed by either MLS team is not going to land as big as Charlotte.
I feel like the gimmick stuff you're talking about is just indicative of like culture and society, though, or just like teams have definitely just become a little bit more corporatized too, and they're just taking the same type of media professionals that like work at these agencies.
Here's the thesis: there's no such thing as a good like sports team tweet anyway. Yeah. Nobody actually cares.
Yeah.
The only good sports team tweet was, "I'm so hungry, I gotta find my wife at PF Chang's," by the Los Angeles Chargers in 2007.
See, just by your first 3 words, I immediately knew exactly what account that came from.
It was sorry, it was the San Diego Chargers.
It was the San Diego Chargers at the time. You're right.
I had to look it up. I did vaguely remember last year's celebrity coaches for the All-Star weekend when they brought in Noah Beck among TikTok's top 10 breakout creators of 2020 and Kobe and PragerU alum Kobe Jones.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'm surprised they didn't get McConaughey to show up, or Will Ferrell really fell off. I mean, Will Ferrell was doing a big tour of like, he like went and suited up for like 15 MLB teams in one day of spring training too. So I'm surprised he didn't insert himself.
Well, he did the late night circuit with LAFC and stuff, right? So, but like just to like demonstrate, like the product placement for MLS used to be way cooler, right? Like, think about Metro Stars, right? The Sopranos, Hellboy, like
that was just because people who worked on those shows, I feel like, see, that's the thing about the Red Bulls that I think is sneaky, is that I feel like there's low key a lot of people who have some sort of connection or fandom to the Red Bulls or Metro Stars who, might not go to the stadium ever, but they're like, oh yeah, the Red Bulls, and it shows up in random TV shows and stuff, and it like reaches out there that like the other teams don't necessarily have. So, which I think is cool. Does it really matter? Not really, but I think people can relax a bit about it, and I just also really love that the PF Chang's tweet is still up there, and it hasn't been totally deleted.
They'll never get rid of it. They know that that's an important part of culture. That.
But, they did move cities and just totally abandon all fans entirely. So somebody needs to like preserve that in a museum somewhere. That and
As an NFT, obviously.
yeah, that and my tweets real AF.
Yeah.
The Temecula saga. But that's actually one saga that's one benchmark for MLS. We will not be a legit league until we have a Meet Me in Temecula incident.
We tried to arrange Meet Me in Darien, but maybe another day.
We were briefly worried that we might actually cause some sort of fight out in the real world there, but that wasn't actually us. It was somebody else.
Yeah, I was worried when you said. I might have to bleep that out because I'm not sure if the FBI is still investigating.
We're saying too much. Well, I think
Well, no one here was involved, but we had the.
No.
There was that the oh no, I'm talking the in Harrison, the I think was it maybe the second NYCFC game when the sandwich board got
sandwich
thrown.
board, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. I needed
something.
That reminds me.
We have so much lore.
Yeah, it was a surprising amount of lore.
Yeah.
I need to return to that old YouTube video that heavily features that.
You know what the problem with, and to totally diss Metro Fanatic is like they don't collect the lore correctly, like in the interesting kind of way,
Wait, I'm actually curious. So this is Mike, have you ever heard of the YouTube video Dax McCarthy is innocent?
No, I have not.
Okay. There's no, it's like a random like YouTube poop video from like 10 years ago now. So actually, no, like 2015. So like 6 or 7 years ago now that I at one point was referencing religiously, but I was like, I have no idea if anyone else knows this exists.
Well, it was so funny because like it was such a big part of our lives and very few people had heard of it.
Yeah, but the sandwich board incident is a crucial plot beat in that video, so I highly recommend it to anyone.
Right, because you'd never get the sound of the police moment,
right?
Otherwise,
exactly. I also saw a reference somewhere to the Bronx Warriors movie, which was like a cheap Italian knockoff of the Warriors. That is referenced in that movie.
McCarthy,
Yeah, it's one of those moments where I'm out on the town and I have to explain, oh yeah, that sounds familiar, and I piece it together and I decide to not explain.
That was the Shining reference
to my date that I'm thinking of Dax McCarthy is innocent. But cool.
I have that, but with the Key and Peele steampunk sketch.
Oh, that was at least on television though.
Yeah, but like when I say like Jules Verne and shit, people are very confused.
We all have those. Yeah, we all have those. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to tell us about the Dismal Tide and that purely? I was going to say your Twitter handle instead. You can tell us about Mr. Too Damn Soccer and the Purely Aesthetic Soccer Show.
Yes. So the Dismal Tide is just a podcast, a general sports podcast. We'll be doing our Super Bowl prop bets episode. If you want to hear three men absolutely lose their mind about how they'll spend a combined $60, you can check that out Friday. And then I have I am on Twitter, my specific account, Mr. Too Damn Soccer, which I got somehow. I do a show that is effectively Manager Monday, the podcast.
Ooh.
I realize that there's plenty of other people who talk about actual games and give genuine analysis. So I've started basically a haircut podcast to
balance it out.
Look, Cork and I still need to get our Uniqlo podcast off the ground, so
yeah, there's room for collaboration. Yeah.
I think that's the most critical area of soccer media that's needed. We have too many of the wannabe, Michael Coxes, the scuffs out there. We need more Manager Monday. We need more Purely Aesthetic Soccer Show.
That's that. Yeah. Well, that's where I saw that. That's where I saw an opening because I wrote up a thing about Nico Schlotterbeck from Freiburg the other day. Zero response. I post the podcast and talk about how Julian Nagelsmann begged for that Adidas jacket. I turned out to be wrong. It turns out Adidas is making them for all their big teams. But yeah, and it gets more attention. So you know what? That's where my bread is buttered.
This is off topic at this point, but like
great science. Yeah,
you just like I just want to ask you out of curiosity, how dripless of an individual is Julian Nagelsmann? Like really, right? Like he's just so devoid of any kind of sense of style.
He really is, and he's he's trying really hard. But
that's what makes it worse. Like you can tell he's trying. Yeah.
He also just, there's some guys that don't have the face for it, and he doesn't. And it's for someone who is the young hotshot, he just doesn't look like one, and so he's really trying to dress like one, and he can't. But I did accuse him of demanding that Adidas send him a varsity jacket, and then I saw Gabriel Martinelli wearing an Arsenal one today. So I was wrong. They are just available.
You don't have to hand it to him. Don't worry about it.
I think this just convinces me that an underrated crime of Bayern Munich was that it really goaded on and encouraged Pep to become more of who he is today, because he just got to go there and wear his little shirts and just blow everyone in Germany out of the water by comparison. Because let's face it, it's a country of Nagelsmen. So
Nagelsmen.
It really just those couple years in Munich. Yeah, this couple years in Munich, I think, really contributed to the beast that Pep Guardiola is now. And we've been critical of him in the past, but just think of how much worse it would be if Caleb Porter didn't knock him off his perch in his little flannel shirt in Portland that one day. What a dark timeline we would be in. So Caleb, don't really care for you when you're managing against us, but thank you for your service in that moment at the least. But
who would have thought that Caleb Porter is protecting us from diesel button-up shirts?
Yeah. The German managers on the whole, it's very much a lot of beard and glasses guys.
You've seen Jurgen Klopp, you've seen them all,
Well, with Klopp's an interesting one though, because he's sort of like a team tracksuit guy. Is someone who would tell you that he doesn't care, that is like, I don't really keep up with my appearance, I don't really any of that, but he has veneers and got a hair transplant, so he put in a lot of time and money to to be like a better put together slob. He's very interesting in that regard.
Wow, that's telling. I hadn't noticed that about Klopp, particularly with the hair transplants.
Apparently he's open about it. I think there was a Players Tribune thing with Mario Götze where apparently Mario Götze walked by him walking out of the hair transplant place.
Well, it makes sense because they probably went to the same place.
I'm surprised he hasn't had his teeth done then.
Well, I was gonna say about Klopp that I think veneers make sense as someone who as he gets older thinks more and more about potentially getting veneers at one point. So.
What are veneers again?
Just fake teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, so he did get his teeth done.
He got some like Joe Biden teeth, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's players everywhere. It seems like a status symbol thing now. Like the more
rappers do it now too. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people just have enormous, very, very shiny teeth now.
Yeah, I just grind my teeth, so they've become very small over the years.
I don't know. In the UK, there seems to be something going on, particularly with eyebrows, that I've not been able to track. If you need a visual aid, the reason I became aware of this is checking in on Jack Harrison, former NCAA starlet, looking at him, and I was like, my God, what has happened? And then just watching a random Premier League game, I was like, all the young English guys look like Jack Harrison now. I don't know if it's like some sort of weird Botox thing that they're doing into their brow, but like their eyes look really swollen to me, or like that they're like artificially making their eyebrows bushier.
Yeah, when you said that, I immediately thought of Emile Smith-Rowe having like very manicured eyebrows.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, threading's a thing now.
He also just got his teeth done.
But the thing you're talking about with the bushiness might just be some makeup, because there are like eyebrow pencils now that like.
I was gonna say it looked like the opposite of threading in a way that surprised me.
So it might just be like people because that's a very big makeup thing now.
Thicker,
it's like thicken your eyebrows,
like tattoos to like make your eyebrows.
No, you have like little pencils that make like the brush strokes. I was looking into this for some reason. Deep dive of what makeup is like, but it's a very popular product to have a very simple like eyebrow.
Honestly, maybe a future episode could be
me doing a makeup stream.
No, it could be tattoo.
By the way,
crit.
when I was trying to get the show off the ground, I in the summer, which again, there were several months off between episodes. But I was trying to figure out. I'm just like, I got to put together something for an introduction. Like, there's got to be something that like sort of like gets the point across of what the show is. And the clip of Jack Grealish explaining his hair routine got posted, and just like that, I got it. So now that's the intro now. And
Perfect.
I've messed around with a few other ones, but I think I'm just going to leave it like that forever.
Perfect. Grealish is another Jack Harrison type looking guy that I was thinking of. And I think that's a great way to end it. But I'm definitely going to check out these prop bets, because we always try to do not literal prop bets, half-hearted prop bets about the Red Bull season coming up. So I'm going to definitely check out Dismal Tide Super Bowl prop bet.
Especially now that we're sponsored by MGM Sportsbook.
That's right.
Yeah, and DraftKings simultaneously, and Woke Hiram's and Barclays Pizza, and proud to announce View from 202 successfully lobbied our big boy mayor to start eating fish again because of our fish business to be announced. So we stay winning here at View from 202. But Mike, thanks so much for joining us again, and hope to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me. This has been excellent.
Thanks.